Welcome to the African History Nation, the future of radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been a very busy day today, and trying to get caught up on work and edit video, get ready to teach classes this weekend. So today, the story out of Virginia got a lot of coverage. And this is dealing with the 131-year-old statue of General Robert E. Lee. General Robert E. Lee, who led the Confederate Army against the Union during the Civil War. General Robert E. Lee's statue was finally taken down today after years of protests, and we know after the August 2017 Unite the Right rally that ended up with one person dead and a number of people injured. Well, that statue was taken down today, and a lot of people were cheering. Some people were sad. We're going to talk about that today. General Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, Virginia, taken down after 131 years and cut into pieces. So, we've talked about the statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest taken down in Tennessee, the bust taken down in Tennessee from the state capitol building. And we've talked about some of these other stories. There was another statue, General Robert E. Lee, taken down a couple months back. So we'll discuss this. There was a good piece on MSNBC today on All In with Chris Hayes that dealt with some of the history of the Civil War, but then also what happens after the Civil War and how with the end of Reconstruction, you have you have white supremacists taking back over the South and fully instituting white supremacy in the South. So we're going to talk some about this. Also, when we look at the history of the Confederate monuments, we see that they were largely built years after the Civil War ended, and they were largely built to terrorize African Americans and remind us of a low position in society that we were supposed to have. Now, also today, and a lot of people got a kick out of this, the ex-prosecutor who refused to press charges in the Ahmaud Arbery killing, who refused to press charges against the men who are accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery, Greg McMichael, Travis McMichael, William Roddy Bryan. Her name is Jackie Johnson, okay, ex-prosecutor. And she was, we talked about this last week. She was indicted by a grand jury. Well, today she was booked in jail, mugshot taken. All right, so we'll discuss that also. Former prosecutor charged in Ahmaud Arbery case booked in Georgia jail. And I looked at a mugshot, and I was reading the reporting on this. They said she was 49 years old. She looked older than 49 to me. I was shocked to find out she's 49 years old. I'm like, wow. Okay. So we'll discuss that also. The former prosecutor charged with misconduct for her handling of the Ahmaud Arbery case was booked at a Georgia jail Wednesday and released. Former Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney Jackie Johnson turned herself in Wednesday morning at the Glenn County Jail. County Under Sheriff Ron Corbett said jail records show she was released on her own recognizance, meaning she did not have to pay a cash bond. So we'll talk about this as well. And then in the everybody, there's still an outpouring of support and grief and disbelief behind the death of Michael K. Williams from The Wire and Lovecraft Country. There was a story I saw today from, a couple of stories. I saw one from thegrio.com that they picked up from TMZ. And this one from the Grio deals with how the NYPD is investigating the death of Michael K. Williams. And there's reporting that they are looking for the alleged drug dealer that allegedly sold him drugs, because it's the preliminary assumption is that he died from a drug overdose, and that's based upon a substance that was found near his body that they believe to be heroin. Now, they have to wait on the toxicology report, but the NYPD is investigating. They're investigating the origin. According to TMZ, the New York Police Department is investigating the origin of the narcotics found in his apartment. Now, we know that Michael K. Williams is very open about his struggles with drug addiction over the years. He also talked about, I was watching a piece on the Black News Channel today, and he talked about years when he was a child being sexually abused. So it was, a number of different things. There was also a piece from NBC News that I saw today that deals with how over the years he had been open about his struggle with addiction. Okay, so we'll talk about that as well on today's show. Also, I'll give you an update on the online courses we have starting up this weekend. And since the statue of General Robert E. Lee was taken down today in Virginia, General Robert E. Lee is somebody we talk about in the 10-week online course that I teach, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. It was April 9th, 1865 that General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant. And this basically ends the U.S. Civil War. So we'll talk about that on today's show. So we'll give you an update on the online courses starting up this weekend also. All right, now on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can sign up for our email newsletter there as well. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you can register for the 10-week online course that I teach on Saturdays. We'll teach one on Saturdays, one on Sundays. And we have one starting up. Class number 1 starts up Saturday, September 11th. This is going to be 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And we go through and study what happened after the Civil War ends. We start with the last year of the Civil War. We deal with a little history leading up to the Civil War taking place. And we go through the Reconstruction era, 1865 to 1877, Jim Crow era, etc., World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement. All right. And to understand the laws and policies put in place in the predicament that we're in today, understand what happened after the Civil War ended, and where do we need to go from here. So that class is regularly $130, on sale $80. Click on register here. You can register for the class. As soon as you register, there's bonus content you can start watching. There's some bonus lectures that you get from me also. So it's a fantastic class. We do the classes live. All the sessions are recorded. All the sessions are archived. They're recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. You still have access to the class even after the 10-week online course is over with. All right, I want to jump into this first story here. So let's see here. Let's start with Ahmaud Arbery. Okay. And, you know, I was doing some work today, and let's see, I guess one of them didn't save, but this kind of made my day right here. That's the mugshot of former Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney Jackie Johnson. She was booked today, dealing with basically prosecutorial misconduct. If we look at this article here from NBC News, this deals with the Ahmaud Arbery case. Remember, we reported last week that she had been indicted. Former prosecutor charged in Ahmaud Arbery case booked in Georgia jail. Jackie Johnson turned herself in Wednesday morning, jail records show, as she was released on her own recognizance, meaning she did not have to pay cash bond. Now, former Brunswick Judicial County District Judicial Circuit District Judge Jackie Johnson turned herself in on Wednesday, September 8th, at the Glenn County Jail. County Under Sheriff Ron Corbett said a grand jury indicted Jackie Johnson last week on a felony charge, of violating her oath of office, and a misdemeanor count of obstructing police. Violating her oath of office and a misdemeanor count of obstructing police. Now, Jackie Johnson was the area's top prosecutor when 3 white men chased Ahmaud Arbery down like he was an animal and shot him to death last year. And one of them reportedly called him the N-word as he lay down on the ground. The indictment alleges she used her position to shield the alleged killers of Ahmaud Arbery from prosecution. Okay. Now, Jackie Johnson did not immediately return a phone message Wednesday from NBC News. Officials at the jail and the Glenn County Superior Court clerk's office said their records did not list an attorney for her. Greg McMichael and his grown son, Travis McMichael, armed themselves and pursued Ahmaud Arbery in a pickup truck on February 23rd, 2020. I think they thought they were going to get away with it. I think they thought they were going to get away with it. Now, Gregory McMichael is a former police detective. And I think they thought this was, going to be something like you see from a movie from the 1960s, at the, a modern day lynching or something. Now, right now, so it's unclear, having looked at this case before, they ran him down, they hit him with the car. After everything happened and he ended up being killed, it appears like they thought they were going to get away with it. That's what everything I've seen. It appears like they thought they were going to get away with it, but as the saying goes, not today, Satan. So we'll deal with this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Stand by. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN show, paypal.me / the AHN show. Also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Who we have here? We got April. We've got Robert. We've got Felipe. Just a few of the people watching us. Michael, Shaflan, Robert Campbell. Okay, everybody stand by. All right, let's see. We've got that story. We got to go to this next story here. Stand by, everybody. Okay, Lenore, how you doing? Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Who still needs to register for the 10-week online course we have starting up on Saturday, September 11th? From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. 1865 to 1968. Who still needs to register for that class?
Relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. 910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Very quickly here, coming up on Saturday, September 11th, class number 1 of from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968 starts. This is an online course I teach, 10-week online course. So we have it here on our website, right on the homepage, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And when I was showing it before, the flyer wasn't populating, but it's populating now. So we'll post a link here also on the thread of the broadcast, and you can register for the course. Now, as soon as you register, there's bonus content. You can start watching this, and there's some bonus lectures that you get from me as well. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, and we tie all this into what's going on today: the voter suppression, the domestic terrorism that we see, the January 6th insurrection, which is really a continuation of the Civil War, and then the domestic terrorism that was especially taking place after Reconstruction ended. Okay, so we tie all that history together. All right, I want to go back to this story here dealing with Ahmaud Arbery. So the former prosecutor who refused to press charges against Greg McMichael and Travis McMichael and William Roddy Bryan, she was booked today and released on her own recognizance. Okay. Now, if we go back to the story, and Shakita, I just sent you a clip from CBS News. Okay, cue that up, please. We're going to go to that clip here in just a second. If we go back and look at this clip here, if we go back to the article from NBC News. Now, Greg McMichael and his grown son, Travis McMichael, back on February 23rd, 2020, last year, February 23rd, 2020. They armed themselves and pursued Ahmaud Arbery in a pickup truck after they spotted Arbery running in their neighborhood just outside the port city of Brunswick, okay, in Georgia, about 70 miles south of Savannah, Georgia. Okay, now it's important to note, it's like the history of Georgia, former Confederate state. Georgia has the largest Confederate monument in the country called Stone Mountain. So, I mean, it's a deep history in Georgia. All right. It's a deep history. But a neighbor, William Roddy Bryan, joined the chase and took cell phone video of Travis McMichael shooting Ahmaud Arbery at close range with a shotgun. Now, Greg McMichael told police they suspected Arbery was a burglar, and Travis McMichael shot him in self-defense. Okay, they suspected he was a burglar of a house that was under construction. A house that was under construction. All right. Now, video surveillance showed a number of people, basically mostly white, wandering onto the construction site, looking around, seeing what was going on. To our knowledge, none of them were chased down. To our knowledge, none of them were shot. Anything like that. Now, prosecutors have said Ahmaud Arbery was unarmed and was carrying no stolen items when he was slain. But even if he was carrying stolen items, that doesn't mean you should shoot him. I mean, even was he running with some lumber on his back? Even if he was, even if he did steal some items, that don't mean you should shoot him. The McMichaels and William Roddy Bryan were not charged in the killing until more than 2 months later, after the video was leaked and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the case. The GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Now, all three men are scheduled to stand trial this fall on murder charges. Okay, I guess we can call them the Three Stooges, or the Three Musketeers, one for all for one. But more like the Three Stooges. So Greg McMichael worked for Jackie Johnson as an investigator. He worked for this prosecutor, Jackie Johnson, as an investigator in the district attorney's office before retiring in 2019. Phone records introduced in court show he called Jackie Johnson and left her a voicemail soon after the shooting took place. Wonder what they talked about. Jackie Johnson, former prosecutor, but she was the prosecutor back in 2020 when the killing took place. Jackie Johnson has previously denied any wrongdoing, saying she recused her office from the case immediately because of the officer's relationship with Greg McMichael. He was a detective in her office. Now, Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr's office is prosecuting Jackie Johnson, Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr. Attorney General Chris Carr sought the misconduct investigation last year, saying the first outside prosecutor he appointed to handle the case had been recommended by Jackie Johnson, prosecutor at the time, Jackie Johnson, who never disclosed that she had already asked that prosecutor to advise police in the immediate aftermath of Ahmaud Arbery's killing. She had never disclosed that she had already asked the prosecutor to advise police in the immediate aftermath of Ahmaud Arbery's killing. Now, the outside prosecutor, Waycross Judicial Circuit District Attorney George Barnhill, later recused himself, but not before sending a letter to Glenn Police advising that he believed the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery was justified. Now, Jackie Johnson lost re-election in 2020 and blamed controversy over Ahmaud Arbery's death for her defeat. Well, okay. That's so she's gonna blame. Okay, all right. I want to go to this clip here. Shakita, we're gonna go to the clip I just sent you from CBS News. Now, I reported on this when this happened. This story came out October 6, 2020. And if you remember when the story really got national attention of Ahmaud Arbery, William Roddy Bryan he did a press conference with his wife sitting on the couch next to him. And he was saying that he was just a passerby. He wasn't involved in he was just a passerby. He wasn't really involved in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. He didn't chase him. He was just viewing it, right? He was just recording it. So December 16th, 2020, this article comes out with video from CBS News, and other outlets picked this up. I don't think it was exclusive to CBS News. New video appears to contradict suspect's account in Ahmaud Arbery's killing. Surprise, surprise, surprise. It's amazing what video captures. A new video has surfaced. Now, keep in mind, this is December 16th, 2020. Okay. I think it ruined their Christmas for them. A new video has surfaced in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. The new video casts doubt on one suspect's version of what happened. The suspect is William Roddy Bryan. The police body cam video was taken just moments after Ahmaud Arbery was killed. It shows the crime scene investigators near the young man's body, Ahmaud Arbery's body. The video obtained by CBS Jacksonville affiliate WJAX shows officers talking to William Roddy Bryan at the crime scene. The officer asked Bryan, "You're a passerby or coming through?" Bryan responds, "Not necessarily." Bryan recorded the deadly confrontation on his cell phone on February 23rd. His video shows Ahmaud Arbery running through a Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood with Greg and Travis McMichael chasing him in their truck like he's an animal. The video ends with Ahmaud Arbery shot and killed by Travis McMichael. The video was leaked in May of 2020, months after the killing, and immediately sparked national outrage. Now, before he was also arrested and charged with murder, Bryan maintained his innocence, saying he was not part of the confrontation and the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. But the new body cam footage shows that's not what William Roddy Bryan initially told police on the scene. Press play.
Video has surfaced in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. He is the 25-year-old black man who was gunned down in February. His family says he was out jogging. The new video casts doubt on one suspect's version of what exactly happened. Here's CBS's Omar Villafranca.
This police body cam video taken just moments after Ahmaud Arbery was killed shows investigators standing near the young man's body. In the video, obtained by our Jacksonville station WJAX, officers are seen talking to William Roddy Bryan at the crime scene.
Was there a pacifier coming through? Not necessarily.
Bryan recorded the deadly February 23rd confrontation on his cell phone. His video shows Arbery running through a Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood with Greg and Travis McMichael chasing him in their truck. It ends with Arbery shot and killed by Travis McMichael. It was leaked in May, months after the killing, and immediately sparked national outrage. The McMichaels were arrested and charged with murder, and Arbery's family also wanted Bryan behind bars.
I had nothing to do with it.
Before his arrest, Bryan maintained his innocence, saying he had nothing to do with the confrontation and killing of Arbery. But the new body cam video reveals a different story.
I pulled out of my driveway, was going to try to block him. He was going all around it, and I made a few moves at him, and he didn't stop.
Bryan was eventually arrested and charged with murder. All three men have pleaded not guilty and were denied bail.
I just spoke with Bryan's attorney, Kevin Goff, who still maintains that his client was nothing more than a witness to the shooting. In a statement, Ahmaud Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, said she wants all the suspects held fully accountable by the law. No trial date has been set. Nora?
Okay. All right. So that was back from December 2020. Okay. Here are the Three Stooges here. So go back and look at that article from CBS News, December 2020. New video appears to contradict suspect's account in Ahmaud Arbery killing. Okay, go check that out. That's CBS News. That's from December 16th, 2020. Okay, so I want to go to this next story here. Oh, you know what? Let's go to the phone lines very quickly here. Let's go to who we have here. Let's go to Elaine, line 1. Let's go to Elaine, line 1. Elaine, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
I'm calling from New York. How are you?
From New York. I'm all right, Elaine. How you doing tonight? Thanks for calling.
Okay. This is about the Civil War. Are you familiar with Mr. Rikers at Rikers Island in 1863?
I'm familiar with
training for the soldiers in the Civil War.
Okay. I'm familiar with Rikers Island in the New York area.
Right.
Okay. What was his first name?
The history of Rikers Island.
What was his?
Mr. Rikers owned the island, and in the 1860s, 63, he trained the soldiers in the north.
Okay, in the north.
You read the article, they used to snatch black little boys up off the street. Just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm the one who called you about the Syphax family. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling. Back.
Bye now.
Okay. Keep listening. Okay. And then we have Linda. I think Linda, line 2. Linda, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from, Linda. Okay, Linda. Linda, you're on the air. You're not on speakerphone or Bluetooth earpiece, are you? So we can hear you clearly.
I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Shakita, do me a favor. Get Linda's audio together, and we'll come back to her. Okay. Just put it on hold. Get the audio together. We'll come back to her. Okay. I want to go to this next story here. So everybody was watching this today. This is dealing with the huge statue of General Robert E. Lee in Virginia. All right. Now, we all remember the August 2017 Unite the Right rally in Virginia. And it was organized by, you had 12 white supremacist organizations. And they had a rally there because they said they wanted to save the statue of General Robert E. Lee. Okay. So and we know that Heather Heyer, the woman she was an a anti-racism activist. She was a white woman. She was killed. An idiot drove his car into a crowd of protesters, injured a number of protesters, and killed her. So the statue came down today. All right. There were a lot of people cheering. There's some people upset, trying to figure out why they're upset. I mean, it's a statue honoring a traitor to the Union. Countries usually don't have statues honoring people who try to overthrow the government and were traitors to the Union and things like that, committed treason, etc. They don't usually do that. Okay. So if we look at this piece here from NBC News, and we're going to go to this clip here in just a second, Shakita. That's clip number, I think that's clip number 1. Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, Virginia, taken down, cut into pieces. Taken down, cut into pieces. Crews hoisted the statue off a giant pedestal where it had towered over Virginia's capital city for more than a century. Okay, so a crowd erupted in cheers and song on Wednesday 8th as work crews hoisted the enormous statue of General Robert E. Lee. The statue has been there for 131 years. 131 years. It was erected in 1890. Now, 1890, just for reference, 1890 was 5 years before Frederick Douglass died. Okay, 1890 was also the year that the Mississippi State Convention took place, where they said we're here to exclude the Negro, and they instituted poll taxes and literacy tests. This was the Mississippi State Convention, and they instituted poll taxes and literacy tests to suppress the African American vote, because at this time in Mississippi, African Americans were the majority of the population, and we were electing the people in the state offices, electing African Americans in the state office, electing African Americans to the state legislature, etc. All right. The convention's president was a white county judge named Solomon Saladin Calhoun. And he said it bluntly about why they were there. He said, "Let's tell the truth. If it bursts the bottom of the universe, we came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer. We came here to exclude the Negro." Now, this was known as the Mississippi Plan. The Mississippi Plan. And it's going to be adopted. It became the model throughout the South, part of a raft of racially oppressive Jim Crow laws that ended Reconstruction. Okay. Now, Reconstruction ended in 1877, but this is helping to reverse the progress that African Americans made during Reconstruction. Okay. This is the Mississippi Plan. All right, now, very quickly here. Okay, so we have this. Check out this article again from the Washington Post. And these are some of the things that we talk about in the online course that I teach on Saturdays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay, now, if we go back and look at this here, just 1 second. Okay, so if we go back and look at this piece here from NBC News, just let me pull this up. Okay, so a crowd was there cheering. They erupted in song Wednesday as crews hoisted an enormous statue of General Robert E. Lee, one of America's largest monuments to the Confederacy. The equestrian statue was lifted down to the ground just before 9 a.m. after a construction worker who strapped harnesses around General Lee and his horse lifted his arms in the air and counted down 3, 2, 1 to jubilant sounds from a crowd of hundreds. Jubilant sounds from a crowd of hundreds. A work crew then began cutting the statue into pieces. Now, Governor Ralph Northam, Democratic governor of Virginia, said, quote, "This was a long time coming. This was a long time coming, part of the healing process, so Virginia can move forward and be a welcoming state with inclusiveness and diversity." Okay. And the Democrats said it represents, quote, "more than 400 years of history that we should not be proud of." And he congratulated Virginians for supporting its removal. Okay. Now, so this statue was erected in 1890. Okay. And Frederick Douglass dies in 1895. But in 1892, somebody is let's go to 1899. 1899, James Weldon Johnson writes the lyrics for the song that's going to become known as the Black National Anthem. That's James Weldon Johnson, 1899. This statue was erected 9 years before that. Okay, this statue was erected 25 years, actually 35 years after slavery ends. I'm sorry, back up. 35 years after slavery ends, 1865. And in 1892, somebody was born that we all know about. Actress Zara Cully, who portrayed Mother Jefferson on The Jeffersons. Zara Cully was born in 1892. She died in 1978. I don't know any African Americans that have never seen an episode of The Jeffersons. But Zara Cully was born 2 years after this statue of General Robert E. Lee was erected. She was born in 1892. Okay, so when you see an episode of The Jeffersons, when you see an episode of The Jeffersons again with Mother Jefferson on it, you realize how a lot of people think slavery was a really long time ago, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. I mean, Frederick Douglass dies in 1895. And Harriet Tubman dies in 1913. Booker T. Washington dies in 1915. So, and the last known former slaves died in the 1950s. So this is not that long ago. But you got forces trying to take us back. I mean, you have forces trying to take us back. Seriously. All right. So let me see here. So that statue was erected. She was born 27 years after slavery ended. That statue was erected 25 years after slavery ended in 1865. I want to go to this clip here from NBC. And this deals with what happened today with the taking down of the General Lee statue. Okay, let's go to this clip, Shakita. Clip number one.
Not seen in more than a century. The largest remaining Confederate statue in America, honoring Civil War General Robert E. Lee, taken down.
We were ecstatic, we all screamed at the top of our lungs.
10 days after the murder of George Floyd last year, and amid calls for racial justice across the country, Virginia's Governor Ralph Northam ordered the statue be removed.
To have these statues that were really put up for the purpose of refighting the Civil War, they shouldn't be there. They're divisive.
But the action was stalled in court battles for more than a year. Last week, the Virginia Supreme Court unanimously cleared the way.
So your view of the statue changed over time?
Yes, absolutely.
How so?
First I thought, well, this is Richmond history, for whatever that's worth. And then I felt like it's time. It needs to go.
The mayor calls today a defining moment.
It is a symbol. It's an inanimate object of bronze and granite, but symbols matter.
But some say the statue was a tribute to history.
Still part of our history, whether good or bad, and it is just sad to see him come down after growing up with them always here.
Tonight, a community reckoning with a painful past, focusing on the future.
Now, crews will return tomorrow to remove a time capsule that historians believe is in the cornerstone of that pedestal, replacing it with artifacts from what they say is the current moment in time.
Okay, so that's from NBC Nightly News. And that's a recap of what took place today with taking down the statue. Now, you have some people who say, well, we should leave it up because it's history. We should leave it up because it's history. Countries do not have statues honoring traitors to the Union. They don't have statues honoring those that took up arms against the Union, trying to overthrow the government, things like that. When you go to Germany, there are no statues of Adolf Hitler. There are no buildings named after Hitler. There are no buildings named after Nazis and things like that. They don't do that. Okay. I want to go to this clip. We're going to go to clip 2, Shakita. I want to go to this second clip here. This was from All In with Chris Hayes today, dealing with the Civil War and dealing with this Robert E. Lee statue. Now, also important to note, the TV show The Dukes of Hazzard, the Charger that Bo and Luke Duke drove and climbed out of the window and jumped over the ravines and things like this. What was the name of the car? The General Lee. Who was the car named after? General Robert E. Lee. The car on the Dukes of Hazzard was named after a white supremacist slave owner from Virginia who took up arms against the Union to keep African people enslaved. This is who the car was named after. I want to go to this clip here. What Robert E. Lee statue says about battle for multiracial democracy. Let's go to this clip.
Well, at least the basics of it. Slavery and the rights and status of enslaved people threw America into a civil war from 1861 to 1865. The North, the Union, eventually won. In the South, the Confederate states that had seceded were vanquished. And President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. But we are not taught, hardly ever. I certainly was taught this only a little bit. What we know less about is what came after the Union's victory, which is the successful effort by those same Confederate forces to win back white supremacy in the South and to win back the story of their own nobility. And those victories are marked with monuments to the Confederacy, to the losing side, to the traitors, like this one, of Robert E. Lee, erected in the former capital of the Confederacy in Richmond, Virginia in 1890, 25 years after Lee's surrender in Appomattox. And after the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments, which made slavery illegal and unconstitutional, enshrined due process in our Constitution, and gave men of any color the right to vote and full citizenship. And after the Union victory, there was a hope born for people like Frederick Douglass and Thaddeus Stevens and Harriet Tubman of a true multiracial democracy enshrined in those Civil War amendments of equal citizens under law with dignity and respect and freedom. And the beginnings of that, the period of Reconstruction in the South, with federal troops deployed to keep the peace, the Confederacy reduced to shameful and abject defeat, Black people were voting. They were registering to vote, and they were going to school and becoming local office holders and mayors and town councilmen and members of Congress. Senator Hiram Revels of Mississippi, I bet you probably never heard that name. Maybe some of you know it. We don't learn his name. The first African-American to serve in the upper chamber. These were the actual beginnings of a true, genuine, multiracial democracy in the South and in America that were then destroyed. And the effort to destroy it was this reactionary movement.
All right, those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Keep watching. We're going to finish the rest of that clip. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation, WFDF. When he mentioned Hiram Rhodes Revels became a U.S. senator from Mississippi in 1870 during Reconstruction. He was an African-American man. There has never been another African-American U.S. senator from Mississippi since the 1870s. And there's a reason why for that. Okay. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and register for the 10-week online course that I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We have class number 1 starting up Saturday, September 11th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 10-week online course I teach. We do the class live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Okay. All right. Stand by, everybody. We posted a link here. You can register for the class. We're going to continue this clip. Also, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN Show, paypal.me /the AHN Show. Okay. We're here 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show, SHOW. And when you go to it, it shows my name. It says Michael and shows my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Okay. All right. Now, I want to, we're going to go back to this clip here. I have to cue it up. Also, read this article from Mother Jones. This is a chart that shows when the Confederate monuments were built. The real story behind all those Confederate statues. Okay, this is from August 15th, 2017. This happened I think this was right after the Unite the Right rally. Okay, and what this shows is, and I've talked about this before, and I've done an entire lecture dealing with the history of the Confederate monuments. All right. They were built. They weren't built like right after the Civil War ended, contrary to popular belief. They weren't built right after the Civil War ended. The 2 periods of time when you have the most number of Confederate monuments built are from around 1895 to 1915. Okay. And we look at the chart here. You see this. Let's see. Let me look at. Make sure you can see this. Okay. 18 right around right here starts picking up right around 1895 to 1915, and then about 1954 through 1970 during the Civil Rights Movement. But look at this spike in the number of Confederate monuments built, monuments and statues, things like this, lynchings, lost cause myth, KKK monument building. And the lost cause myth was a rewriting of history. And the lost cause was largely funded by the United Daughters of the Confederacy. And it is rewriting the history that the Civil War was fought because of states' rights. Okay. Is rewriting that history that the Civil War was fought because of states' rights. It wasn't because of, you know, it wasn't because of slavery, and the federal government was encroaching upon the states' rights of these Confederate states. So, you know, they seceded from the Union to have freedom and things like this, and they de-emphasize the importance of slavery. But when you read their statements of secession that talk about why they seceded from the Union, the various states had issued statements of secession of why they were seceding from the Union. They talk about how slavery was central to their way of life and their wealth and different things like this. Okay, so we see these two periods of time. We see the hold on, let's see here. So we see these two periods of time. Basically 1915 to basically about 1894, 1895 through about 1915. Okay. And 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson, U.S. Supreme Court case legalizes separate but equal. Legalizes Jim Crow laws. 1898, grandfather clause. 1914, World War I starts. 1915, the movie The Birth of a Nation comes out. So you see a huge spike in Confederate monuments and statues being built then, and then is relatively low from you go into the Depression era. Things like this is relatively low. It drops down in 1941 down. It drops down during World War II. We're going to see it pick up during the Civil Rights Movement, basically 1954 to 1970. All right. Now, these are going to be erected to terrorize African Americans and to try to keep us in a low subservient position in society. And they're going to, when the Civil Rights Movement comes, they're going to be erected in opposition to the Civil Rights Movement. They're going to be erected as a backlash to Brown versus Board of Education, U.S. Supreme Court case, etc. Okay. All right. Now I want to go back to this clip from All In with Chris Hayes. Just a second.
All over the place throughout the South, not just the South, though. This chart published by the Southern Poverty Law Center in 2019 shows two huge spikes in the construction of Confederate monuments in the early 1900s, then again the 1950s and 60s. That first period of construction took place as Southern states were enacting Jim Crow laws to essentially reimpose the apartheid rule that Reconstruction had tried to abolish. And the second period was during the modern civil rights movement, nearly 100 years after Reconstruction. And during that movement, with bloodshed and courageous action of people like the late John Lewis and many, many others, the country got the Voting Rights Act signed into law in 1965. That Voting Rights Act reestablished a right to the franchise that had already been established in the Constitution back in 1871, a battle for enfranchisement that had been won and then lost and then won again. And yet, no victory in this ongoing struggle about the nature of this country is ever final, which is why there was such vicious folly, hubris, and cynicism even in the words of Chief Justice John Roberts in 2013 when he declared the South has changed. Roberts wrote in the majority opinion in Shelby v. Holder, the case that gutted a major provision of the Voting Rights Act, that basically, well, racism may still exist, but the system that creates inequality does not, and certainly you can't map it out. In 1965, the states could be divided into those with a recent history of voting tests and lower voter registration and turnout, and those without those characteristics. Congress based its coverage formula on that distinction. Today, the nation's no longer divided along those lines, yet the Voting Rights Act continues to treat it as if it were. And then he invented a constitutional principle to get rid of it. And that is, I would argue, the key turning point in the beginning of this direct assault to once again mount the forces of reaction against multiracial democracy. Because 3 years later, the country elected Donald Trump president. Donald Trump, by his own bragging, a great defender of monuments to white supremacy, including to Lee, and who had many times seemed to channel the whole sordid and pathetic fantasies of Lee's apologists. You'll remember during the summer of his first year in office, white men, snarling with torches, marched in Charlottesville. And what did they march for? Putatively, they marched to stop a Robert E. Lee statue from coming down, carrying those torches and yelling, "Jews will not replace us," among other things. One of them murdered a protester the very next day. And Trump said, well, they're very fine people. Then this past January, in a special election, the people of a former Confederate state made Raphael Warnock the first Black Georgian ever elected to the Senate. The very next day, a violent faction of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, almost successfully interrupting the peaceful transition of power. Because if the country was going to be a true and equal multiracial democracy, they didn't want it. If it wasn't theirs, it was not worth having. And so they used American flags to beat cops. And they carried the Confederate flag, the flag of treason and slavery, through the Capitol as they attempted to wrest back power for themselves. The culmination of these dark forces, from the unraveling of the Voting Rights Act, the election of Trump, to Charlottesville, the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, is a desperate attempt to forestall precisely the kind of world that Robert E. Lee fought against, unsuccessfully. Yet today in Richmond, we bore witness to an incredible scene. This huge monument of the Confederacy in Richmond, put up in 1890, the statue of Robert E. Lee that had been transformed by graffiti and anti-racist messages following last summer's murder of George Floyd, was removed after more than 130 years as people looked on chanting, "Hey, hey, goodbye." And there's Virginia's white governor, Ralph Northam, who defied calls to resign in the face of blatant racism exhibited in his decades-old photo of his med school yearbook page. Remember that one? Surfacing, showing one man in blackface, another in a KKK costume. No one quite sure which one was Northam, but he was probably one of the two. That man, that product of a Virginia that made that kind of yearbook photo an acceptable thing to put in there, well, he's the one who ordered the statue's removal last summer and who celebrated by live streaming it, clearly viewing it as a political benefit for him and for the Democratic Party in a state that is now reliably Democratic, that is considerably more progressive than many of the states throughout the old Confederacy. The fact that Lee's statue came down is no doubt a win for those of us who do believe in the project of multiracial democracy. The broader lesson of Lee's statue coming down is that no victory is ever definitive. No surrender ever final, because the forces that oppose it endure.
Okay, the forces that oppose it endure. Okay, that was from All In with Chris Hayes from Wednesday, September 8th, 2021, MSNBC. Name of that clip is what Robert E. Lee's statue says about battle for multiracial democracy. We're going to post a link here to that clip here on the thread of the broadcast also. All right, now, so read this. Let's go back to the article here from NBC News very quickly. Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond, Virginia, taken down, cut into pieces. Okay, so it has statements in here from Governor Ralph Northam. It has statements in here from some of the onlookers as well. Let's look at this here. Sharon Jennings, an African-American born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, said the statue had to go, but she still had mixed feelings seeing it come down. She said it's a good day and it's a sad day at the same time. She's 58 years old. She said it doesn't matter what color you are. If you really like history and you understand what this street has been your whole life and you've grown up this way, you're thinking, oh my God. But when you get older, you understand that it does need to come down. Now, in its place, okay, and there was an episode, episode of when Roland Martin was still on TV1. There was he had James Lowen, Dr. James Lowen on, and Dr. Greg Carr. James Lowen just passed away, historian James Lowen. And James Lowen wrote the book Lies My Teacher Told Me. I think I had a book here. Yeah, this book here. James Lowen wrote this book, Lies My Teacher Told Me. And James Lowen said that with the Confederate monuments, all the Confederate monuments need to come down because these are honoring traitors to the Union. And you don't have statues and monuments, things like this, honoring traitors. He said in place of those monuments and statues, there need to be historical markers. There need to be historical markers that tell what was there and why it was taken down, because this history has to be taught. See, this is the most important thing that we have to understand here. The history of this country has to be taught. The history of the Civil War has to be taught. Reconstruction, what happened after the Civil War, why the Civil War was fought. This ties directly into slavery and the history of slavery in this country. Americans are very ignorant of history. Okay, so you can't just take the statues down. And most of the activists there and things like this, they were saying this has to evolve into policies being put in place. Okay, so we can't just take statues down that represent white supremacy, but then not deal with dismantling white supremacist policies. Okay, so the momentum behind getting this statue taken down, it took years for this to take place, that has to translate in changes in policy, laws, policies put in place. So it has to continue. All these statues need to go into museums because this history has to be taught. All right, so I'm against destroying the statues. If possible. Now, if they're too big to go into a museum, I understand. Okay, but in general, these things need to be put into museums. They need to be preserved in museums, taken out of the public site, taken out of the parks, etc. Historical markers need to be put in that place. And you have to teach the history of what was there and why it was taken down. They in the clip from Chris Hayes, he mentioned Hiram Rhodes rebels. Hiram Rhodes rebels from Mississippi. I think Hiram is in this. Is he in this article here? He's in one of these articles here. Let's see here. He's not in this one. I think he's in the one from Washington Post. Hold on, let's go back to this one here from the Washington Post. Yeah, right here. He's in this one. He was an African-American man. He was elected to, he was appointed to the U.S. Senate in 1870. Americans didn't vote for U.S. senators till about 1914. The state legislature appointed U.S. senators for about the first 124 years. It wasn't until about 1914 that people started voting for U.S. senators. Okay, this is so he was appointed by the Mississippi state legislature. This is Hiram Rhodes rebels. And there's a piece from history.com that deals with how he almost did not get seated because Democrats didn't want him to be seated. He was an African-American preacher and educator. He was he was appointed to the U.S. Senate in Mississippi. That's a mistake. We didn't elect U.S. senators in 1870. After President Rutherford B. Hayes removed all federal troops from southern states in 1877, white Democrats who supported slavery and the Confederacy began regaining control of the states from black and white Republicans. But you have to understand, the Republicans cut a deal. This is the compromise of 1877 that followed the presidential election of 1876. Well, neither Rutherford B. Hayes nor Samuel J. Tilden had enough electoral college votes to become president. So the Republicans cut a deal with the Democrats because this debate went on for months, okay, trying to figure out who's going to be president. So the Republicans cut a deal with the Democrats. The Democrats wanted the remaining Union troops out of the South, South Carolina and the different states like that. There's a few remaining states where the Union troops are there enforcing, to a certain extent, rights for African Americans. And a lot of Republicans were growing weary and growing tired of trying to integrate African Americans into society. The Freedmen Bank had collapsed in 1874. $2.9 million worth of deposits from African Americans were lost. The Freedmen Bureau shut down in 1872. So this is 1877. So the Republicans say, we'll remove all the Union troops out of if you let Rutherford B. Hayes become president, when he becomes president, he'll remove the remaining Union troops out of the South. This is what Democrats wanted. This is what Republicans agreed to. Okay. So when black conservatives want to keep talking about the Democratic Party, they don't ever want to deal with the compromise of 1877, which ends Reconstruction, allows the Democrats to take back full control of state legislatures in the South, take back full control of society over time. They're going to institute these Jim Crow laws, institute poll taxes and literacy tests to suppress African-American votes in South Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi. The majority of the state legislature in South Carolina during Reconstruction were African-Americans. So when you got a lot of these grifter black Republicans that are money grubbers like Candace Owens and a lot of these other idiots who don't understand history, and then they want to keep talking about the Democratic Party, but they don't want to talk about, they don't want to deal with the compromise of 1877, where Republicans conspired with the Democrats to screw African Americans. And we've never recovered from the end of Reconstruction. The collapse of the collapse of the Freedmen's Bank. The Freedmen's Bureau was not properly funded. Okay, and the Freedmen's Bureau, the Bureau of Freedmen, Refugees, and Abandoned Lands, was to aid African Americans. It was to build schools. It was to help us negotiate labor contracts. They were doing things like helping us find lost loved ones who had been sold off to had sold off during slavery. They helped us get married. All different types of things like this. There were some good things the Freedmen's Bureau did, but it was not properly funded. And what's going to happen is, over time, a lot of white people got tired of dealing with the issue of the Negro, regardless of whether they were Republicans or Democrats. Over time, they got tired of dealing with the issue of the Negro. So then you have the end of Reconstruction take place, and then the Union troops taken out of the South, and this allows the white Southern plantation owners, the white supremacists in the South, to fully take back control of the South and terrorize African Americans. If we look at this article here, and I'm going to wrap this up because I teach class on Saturday, not right now. because in the class we have going right now, we just dealt with the Exodus of 1879, where African Americans were fleeing out of Texas and Louisiana, going into Kansas in 1879. That was a migration before the Great Migration in 1915 to 1970, the Exodus of 1879. We look at this article here from history.com, how Jim Crow era laws suppressed the African American vote for generations. How Jim Crow era laws suppressed the African American vote for generations. They make and this is one of the things I show in the class. We make a direct connection between those Jim Crow era laws after Reconstruction ends to suppress the African American vote, and it's written in the state constitutions: Texas State Constitution 1876, Mississippi State Constitution 1890, Louisiana State Constitution 1898. We see these written into the state constitutions. Well, this is the same thing that Texas just did with SB 1. This is the same thing that Georgia did with their Senate bill, with their voter restriction bill. I think it was SB 201 out of Georgia. Following the ratification in 1870 of the 15th Amendment, which barred states from depriving citizens the right to vote based on race, Southern states began enacting measures such as poll taxes, literacy tests, and all-white primaries, like the all-white primaries that took place in Texas in about 1918, the all-white primaries. Felony disenfranchisement, which means that if you're convicted of a felony, you get stripped of your voting rights. Right after the 15th Amendment is ratified, we start seeing this move for felony disenfranchisement laws. Grandfather clauses, like in 1898. Okay. So if your grandfather couldn't vote because he was a slave, that means you can't vote. Grandfather clauses. Fraud and intimidation to keep African Americans from the voter polls. These laws focus on retaining white supremacy in the electoral process legislators, and they use loopholes in the 15th Amendment to implement a range of measures to disenfranchise African American voters without explicitly characterizing them on the basis of race. After more than 500,000 African American men joined the voting rolls during Reconstruction in the 1870s, helping elect nearly 2,000 black men to public office. Mississippi led the way in using measures to circumvent the 15th Amendment. Mississippi's Jim Crow era laws then set a precedent for other Southern states to use the same tactics to assault African American enfranchisement for nearly a century until the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The reason why you need the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is because what happened in Mississippi in 1890 and what happened in Texas in 1876. All that history is connected. This is what I'm explaining to people. This stuff was not that long ago. And right now, you have Republicans trying to take us back to 1890. If you read this article here, because this is a crucial article from the Washington Post. This one right here, and this says Hiram Rhodes rebels in it. A lot of people never heard of the Mississippi Plan. The Mississippi Plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. We came here to exclude the Negro. This article is from May 1st, 2021 by Ronald G. Schaefer, okay, for the Washington Post. This is a deep history. Now, what's happening is these same voter suppression tactics or similar voter suppression tactics that were used in the 1890s are being used today. The problem is that we don't understand history. Many of us don't understand history and don't see this stuff coming. So we think, oh, we don't need to vote. We just need to do economic empowerment and invest in the stock market. It's like, dude, do you realize that policy shapes the economy that black-owned businesses operate within. And not so what you're dealing with is a huge attack for multiple fronts. You're dealing with an attack in state legislatures on what can be taught in schools about history and what can be taught about the history of slavery and systemic racism, because they want to control the teaching of the past, because whoever controls the teaching of the past will control the trajectory of the future. Then they want to pass voter restriction bills to further restrict who can vote, to determine laws and policies that are put in place. In politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Not only is it through the electoral process that you get the policies, the laws and policies, but you also get the judges who interpret the legality of the laws and policies, because judges are either elected or they're appointed. So federal judges are appointed by a president, confirmed by U.S. Senate. President is elected, U.S. Senate is elected. Now, some people say, oh, well, the Electoral College chooses the president. Yeah, but but the Electoral College doesn't vote until the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. So, for instance, in 2016 presidential election was November 8th. Donald Trump became president-elect the morning of November 9th because he has seated 270 Electoral College votes. Well, the Electoral College didn't vote till December 19th. How did he become president-elect the morning of December 16th? I mean, the morning of November 9th. Because he won the popular votes in the states. And when you win the popular votes in the states, you get the Electoral College votes associated with the states. And he won Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania by 78,000 votes. And he won the Electoral College votes associated with Michigan. At the time, 16 Electoral College votes. We just lost one electoral college vote based upon the 2020 census results. So we go from 16 to 15 Electoral College votes. So people say the popular vote doesn't matter. No, it's not true. It's the popular vote per state that matters, not the national popular vote. It's the popular vote per state that matters, because you win, you become president-elect by getting 270 Electoral College votes. You win, you get to 270 by winning the Electoral College votes associated with a state. Vermont has 3, Maine has 3, I think Georgia has 20. California has 55, but they're losing 1 or 2 votes. Texas has like 38, Michigan 16. So Republicans understood that. Many of us didn't. That's why they engaged in voter suppression tactics in key battleground states to shave off 1 or 2 percentage points. So Donald Trump wins Michigan by 10,704 popular votes. He wins the 16 Electoral College votes associated with Michigan, because he won Michigan by 10,704 Electoral College votes. I mean, popular votes, to win the 16 Electoral College votes. So we're being outmaneuvered on a political football field because we don't understand the difference between a first down and a touchdown, and wonder why we don't have any points on the board, because we don't understand the rules of the game. And you have to understand history to understand what's going on today. What took place January 6th is a continuation. I would argue it's a continuation of the Civil War and a continuation of the fight that happened after the Civil War ended in the end of Reconstruction. The January 6th insurrection didn't just come out of nowhere. You think it was an accident that one of those domestic terrorists went into the U.S. Capitol building with the Confederate battle flag of Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee's army? That didn't even happen during the Civil War. They didn't even take the Confederate battle flag into the U.S. Capitol building during the Civil War. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so check out this piece here from history.com, because all this is tied today. This is history.com's official website of the History Channel. What they talk about next? The Mississippi State Convention. Just as Mississippi became the model for what the other states did, what Georgia did and what Texas did is serving as a model. Well, you have about 412 voter suppression bills in 49 state legislatures. But the ones from Georgia and Texas are some of the most egregious ones and some of the most comprehensive laws that have passed. And you're going to see other state legislatures, if they don't have bills just like it, they're going to start tweaking what they have to get it passed as well. The state legislature is dominated by Republicans. Now, there's an effort that is funding this. There's an effort that's funding. We're going to wrap up with this here. I'm going to deal with this story quickly, dealing with Michael K. Williams, and we'll finish this tomorrow. There's an effort that's funding this, and many of us don't understand this. Now, I've talked about it here on the show before. Mother Jones exposed this. There was a leaked audio. It came out a few months ago, and Mother Jones exposed this, and it was of Jessica Anderson, who is the president of the Heritage Project, I think it is. It's an arm of the Heritage Foundation. And what it deals with is the dark money that is funding these voter suppression bills in state legislatures. And it's dealing with how all these bills, a lot of these bills are similar. And this pressure being put on, governors in these state legislatures to hurry up and sign the bills as soon as the bills pass the state legislature. Okay, this is this is it right here. This is this article. So you have to connect the dots. Now, this effort here with the voter suppression bills is connected to the organizations that are funding the takeover of local school boards, using the fight against critical race theory as a rallying cry to galvanize scared white people to run and take over school boards, local school boards, to control what's being taught in schools and to gain political power at the local level through the school boards. And this is something that used to be with advisor to Trump, Steve Bannon. This is what Steve Bannon was talking about on his podcast, which has gone viral. And there was a 17-page expose from NBC News that deals with the fight that's taking place at local school boards over critical race theory. But critical race theory is not taught in K through 12. But this is money coming from conservative organizations funding this fight. And these are going to be rallying cries to galvanize these crazy ass people during the 2022 midterm elections. Critical race theory battle invades school boards with help from conservative groups. All this stuff is tied together. In towns nationwide, well-connected conservative activists and Fox News have ramped up the tension in fights over race and equity in schools. Read, this is a 17-page article. I know because I printed it out and read it. It's June 15th, 2021. It's from NBC News. It's a deep, deep article that talks about all the stuff that's going on right now in this whole effort that's being funded. Okay. And it's like 165, what do they say? 165 organizations. Yeah. Conflicts like this are playing out in cities and towns across the country amid the rise of at least 165 local and national groups that aim to disrupt lessons on race and gender, according to an NBC News analysis of media reports and organizations' promotional materials. Reinforced by conservative think tanks, law firms, and activist parents, these groups have found allies and families frustrated over COVID-19 restrictions in schools and have weaponized the right's opposition to critical race theory, turning it into a political rallying point. Go read this. You think elections don't have consequences? You must be high on marijuana laced with fentanyl or some nonsense. I don't know where you getting that stuff from. Okay, lastly, let's look at this one here. And then I'm gonna get to the story about Michael K. Williams, because I almost forgot about it. This was a deep expose here from Mother Jones. Leaked video. Dark money group brags about writing GOP voter suppression bills across the country. Just as the effort to take over local school boards is being funded by conservative groups, same thing here. May 13th, 2021. And whoever controls the teaching of the past controls the trajectory of the future. That's why they're trying to take over local school boards. That's what we need to be doing. Running for school board positions in our communities. In a private meeting last month, now this article came out May 13th, 2021. We talked about it when it came out. This is Jessica Anderson here, president of Heritage Action for America, a sister organization to the Heritage Foundation. In a private meeting last month with big money donors, the head of a top conservative group boasted that her outfit had crafted a new voter suppression law in Georgia. A new voter suppression law in Georgia, and was doing the same with similar bills for Republican state legislators across the country. In some case, quote, in some cases, we actually draft them for them. Or we have a sentinel on our behalf, give them the model legislation so it has the grassroots from the bottom up type vibe. The Georgia law had, quote, 8 key provisions that Heritage Action recommended. Jessica Anderson, the executive director of Heritage Action for America, a sister organization of the Heritage Foundation, told the foundation's donors at an April 22nd, 2021 gathering in Tucson, Arizona, in a recording obtained by the Watchdog Group, documented and shared with Mother Jones. Those 8 key provisions included policies severely restricting mail ballot drop boxes, preventing election officials from sending absentee ballot request forms to voters, making it easier for partisan workers to monitor the polls, preventing the collection of mail ballots, and restricting the ability of counties to accept donations from nonprofit groups seeking to aid in election administration. So you have to ask the question, well, why are they so concerned about winning elections? They're rich. Don't they have, why aren't they wealthy? Why are they concerned about politics? Because politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. And this is why there was the push from Republicans to get as many conservative federal judges confirmed and get as many Supreme Court justices confirmed as they could. They got 3 Supreme Court justices confirmed out of Donald Trump. So now you have a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. If Hillary Clinton had become president, you'd have a 6-3 liberal Supreme Court. But because enough people didn't realize that elections have consequences and what was taking place, and didn't realize that Mitch McConnell had blocked 103 federal judge nominations from President Barack Obama when Democrats lost control of the Senate in the 2014 midterm elections, and Republicans took control of the Senate, and they were blocking federal judge nominations from President Barack Obama, like the nomination of Myra Selby, who was going to be sit on the African-American female judge that President Barack Obama nominated in 2016, Myra Selby. She was going to be, he nominated her to be on the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, which includes Chicago. Well, Mitch McConnell blocked her nomination. They didn't even give her a hearing, just like they did with Merrick Garland. They didn't even give Merrick Garland a hearing, and he's white. They didn't even give him a hearing. Okay, they blocked Merrick Garland. They blocked Myra Selby. Okay, so then what happened was, because people was dealing with personalities and thought this is Judge Myra Selby, because they were dealing with personalities and thought the presidential election was about one person, and didn't realize how many federal judges Trump was going to get confirmed. He got 225 federal judges confirmed. These are lifetime appointments. Because they didn't realize that there were 4,000 positions Trump had to fill in the West Wing in his administration. They thought it was like one person versus another person. Oh, I don't like her. And then Trump becomes president. And these federal judges that he nominated, they're going to be federal judges for like the next 30, 35 years. If they don't retire or die in office or what have you. But Judge Myra Selby, her nomination got blocked. So when Trump became president, who did they put in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals? They put Amy Coney Barrett. They put Amy Coney Barrett in the seat that was supposed to go to this African-American woman that President Barack Obama nominated. Then when Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, they fast-track Amy Coney Barrett and get her confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court in 8 days. I tried to tell people in 2015, 2016, I was talking about federal judges and Supreme Court and all this stuff, and people didn't understand what I was talking about. This is stuff that I'm talking about. See, what people fail to realize is that what people fail to realize is that the legislative branch of government writes laws, but it's the judicial branch of government that interprets law. The courts interpret law. The courts can strike down laws written by the legislative branch of government. So Republicans are going for control of the courts, control of the federal courts. And they're trying to control, because they know they're losing the population fight. They know they have a dwindling population. So they're focusing on the federal court. So even if they lose control of the House of Representatives and the Senate, they want to maintain control of the courts for as long as possible to interpret law passed by the legislative branch of government. Okay. All right. Lastly, this story here. I saw this piece here from the Griot. This deals with Michael K. Williams. Also, if you like this type of information, you support the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. You're not going to get this type of information from many other places. We're here 6 days a week. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com also. And it has the times of our show. It has the link to listen to audio podcasts of the shows as well. And you can register for the 10-week online course that I teach on Saturdays from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. This class starts up Saturday, September 11th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch them around the world. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch them over and over again. As soon as you click on register here, it takes you to the next page. Click on enroll. As soon as you enroll, you start watching the content. There are bonus lectures from me also that you get. The class is regularly $130, on sale $80. And the classes are archived, so you can watch them anytime as well. Okay. I saw this story also here. We'll deal with one on Michael K. Williams, this main one here. So everybody's still reeling from the untimely passing of actor, dancer, Michael K. Williams. There was a piece here from thegriot.com that I saw, and they picked it up from TMZ. Also, Yahoo News and Atlanta Journal-Constitution picked up this story as well. Police are looking for dealers following the death of Michael K. Williams. So let me close this stuff out. Police are looking for dealers following the death of Michael K. Williams. The NYPD is investigating. His death. Now, while the official cause of death has not been determined, reports from both TMZ and the New York Post revealed that drugs were found in his apartment when his body was discovered early this week. While police believe Williams may have died from a drug overdose, hold on, let me see something here. While police believe he may have died from a drug overdose, it won't be confirmed until a toxicology test is completed. And hold on, let me try to refresh the screen just a second. All right. So reports from both TMZ and the New York Post revealed that drugs were found in his apartment. Now, we know he's talked about in the past dealing with drug addiction. Okay. And there's a story from NBC News we'll talk about on tomorrow's show dealing with that. Let's go back to this here. So it won't be confirmed until the toxicology test is completed, whether he died from a drug overdose or not. TMZ is reporting that the New York Police Department is investigating the origin of the narcotics found in his apartment. Nearly 7 months before his tragic passing, Michael K. Williams talked about his struggle with addiction with the WTF podcast host Mark Maron. He said, I'm in the club as well. Michael K. Williams said, referring to being in recovery. Okay, he said, and anybody that has heard me speak before, I'm not shy about it. Relapse to me is part of my story. And but I'm living good today. All's we got is today. Now, in a 2012 interview, he revealed that he spent much of his earnings from his critically acclaimed portrayal of Omar Little on The Wire. He spent much of his earnings doing drugs in what he said, quote, in scary places with scary people, in scary places with scary people. He said, I was playing with fire. He told NJ.com, though he also insisted he limited himself to marijuana and cocaine, nothing stronger, quote unquote, nothing stronger, for example, heroin. Okay. He said he limited himself to marijuana and cocaine. All right. Now, there's another story. You see, the problem is people are getting cocaine that's laced with fentanyl. And fentanyl is highly lethal. Okay. And it's like up to 100 times more powerful than morphine. There was a story I saw from news1.com that dealt with why so many people are dying from fentanyl and why fentanyl is being used in drugs, things like this. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But this whole addiction crisis is something horrific, and is something that we know has been afflicting the African American community. And at the same time, I think it probably during the pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, some of it I think has gotten worse because people have been separated from people, and for various reasons, people are turning to self-medication. The other thing is because of the opioid crisis and people having chronic injuries. We saw in the Derek Chauvin trial, in them talking about George Floyd's girlfriend, talking about his struggle with opioid addiction and her struggle with opioid addiction, and having been given opioid prescriptions. And these are powerful drugs that fight these powerful painkillers, where people get addicted to them. When the prescriptions run out, many times they turn to heroin on the street, okay, for the fix. So if you go back to this article here quickly, he said, okay, I was playing with fire. He told NJ.com. He said, it was just a matter of time before I got caught and my business ended up on the cover of a tabloid, or I went to jail, or worse, I ended up dead. He said it was just a matter of time before my business ended up on the cover of a tabloid, or I went to jail, or worse, I ended up dead. He said, quote, when I look back on it now, I don't know how I didn't end up in a body bag, end quote. This, and we know he went through rehab and things like this, but the in-depth interview has since been updated to reflect Williams' recent passing. Read this article here from thegrio.com. But so now, actually starting in the Obama administration, the War on drugs was winding down under the Obama administration. And there was a change in the way we looked at addiction, changing it from addiction being something that needs to be criminalized to addiction being a public health issue. Because this is a public health issue. This is a sickness. Addiction being a public health issue. We saw this change really happen under the Obama administration. There was I did a lecture in 2016 dealing with the war on drugs and then dealing with the change in the war on drugs over time. And as more white people got addicted to opioids and then had to go to rehab and things like this, there was a change in this country in how we look at addiction, because white people were being arrested, etc. Okay, more white people were being arrested. Okay, so we'll talk some more about this tomorrow. All right, look, we got to get out of here. Hopefully you learned a lot from today's show. You can support us through Cash App, $ TheAHNShow, through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. Also, we have at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, we have a sale going on until Friday. Get 20% off orders of $100 or more. Orders of DVD lectures and digital downloads. Get 20% off orders of DVD lectures and digital downloads. Use promo code AHN20 off. It's right on the homepage of our website. Use promo code AHN20 off and get 20% off of orders of $100 or more. And they have all of my DVD lectures and digital downloads are there. We have bundle packs of my lectures, etc. Okay, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's correct strong behavior. It's not over till we win Wakanda forever. And we'll talk